Yeah.
Sounds good to me. All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industry. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We're here today with a past guest, a webcomic creator, a marketer, a graphic design illustrator. You've seen him on the show before. From the webcomic Shadowbinders, we're joined today by Thom Pratt. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kurt. Good to be back.
Well, good to have you back. It's been a little bit since you were
Mhm.
last on. Now, we've talked about your comic in the past, and for those that don't know about it after all this time, tell us what it's about and where has it gone since we last chatted.
Oh, let's see. It's probably been, what, about a year or so?
About a year, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Shadowbinders is a comic that I work on with my wife, Cambria, and she writes it. I draw it. I guess the best way we can sum it up is steampunk fantasy romantic comedy. Um, so it's about a girl from our world goes to another world. It's a steam fantasy world, and she meets a young mage named Crimson Wren, and he's sort of an arrogant jerk, and hilarity ensues. Uh, as far as where we're at with it right now, just trying to keep the update schedule because I made the terrible mistake of drawing really complicated airships that I have to draw again and again and again. Uh, so I'm thinking gag strip might have been the way to go, but
They were really hot air balloons all along.
yeah, there we go. There we go. Um,
Uh, the one thing I've always found interesting about your comic and about yourselves is you're not afraid to look into the business side of web comics, to look inside the marketing aspect of things, and to really try new things that other people either are too afraid to do or maybe not have not thought of to try yet. What's been happening in terms of marketing with not only Shadowbinders, of your observations over the last few years?
well, let's see. Shadowbinders, yeah, we're staunch advocates of marketing because you have to be. I think there's a misperception that if you put something on the internet that people are going to magically find you, and you got to realize it's a pretty crowded place out there. I mean, there are. We were talking earlier today. There are probably 100,000 webcomics online. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I mean, there are a lot of webcomics out there, and if you want to stand out, you really have to promote yourself, and you really have to get your stuff out there. And there are a variety of ways of doing it. Some ways work better than others, but you pretty much have to jump up and down, and scream for attention. You know, and it's unfortunate because I mean I'm not, um, you know, I'm not very good at self promoting. I don't think, but you kind of have to. You kind of have to do that. So I mean, we've tried some different things over the years. Um, some have been more effective than others. Some, I kind of wish we could go back and maybe undo. But it's, I mean, as far as that, I think it's just trial and error. As far as marketing comics, I know everybody's um, trying to come up with the magic bullet, and we really don't think there is one. I don't think it's a one size fits all thing. So, we just, Cam and I, we do take chances, and we, just experiment and see what works for us.
Would you say that you're more successful than you have been in the past? Are you least successful? Are you
Um,
about average? Are you hitting a
well,
thousand?
de- de- depends on your, yeah, I guess, your definitions. Are you talking like in terms of like how we're doing in terms of traffic, or how we're doing in terms of revenue, or
Let's
um,
well traffic. Well, we'll get to traffic, but let's in terms of revenue. Have you put in more than you've? Uh, have you gained more from
have we
marketing
gained more?
yourself?
I think we're at a place right now where the comic certainly does pay for itself. I joke with people. I said, well, it does pay our mortgage, but that's about it. In terms of you know, uh, it's we're doing okay. We're doing all right. I mean, we're doing better than a lot of people are. And again, that is it enough to do it full time right now? No, but then a lot of that would take more time, I think, for us. I mean, if we threw ourselves into it full time, we might be able to do it, but it's we've got 2 kids and a mortgage, so it's like I don't know if we're really that brave yet, but yeah, we do okay. We do okay. It's unfortunately right now, one of the problems we've run into, and some of our readers are getting a little frustrated, is I've had a lot of freelance assignments the last couple months, and unfortunately the comic schedule, the updates been sort of up and down and whatnot, and it's just, I mean, that's always hard, the balancing act, because freelance is not a normal 9-to-5 job, and you take the jobs as they come, and unfortunately, sometimes the webcomic kind of gets put on the back burner, and you hate to do that, but if it's not your main income, it's do what you got to do,
Yeah. And I just want to let everyone know that this is a live show at this current time here, and that you can actually ask your questions in the YouTube page, which is available on the live YouTube Hangouts section there. It is a thing.
I'll try not to swear.
Hasn't stopped people in the past, but that's okay. But I think it's interesting because webcomics have been around for a good 30 years. If you realistically, they've been around for at least 30 years. Well, I'm thinking late 80s, early 90s, so in that range. It's close, anyhow. But much like the newspapers attracted millions of readers back in its day, webcomics attract those numbers as well too. Marketing in terms of both the old style traditional newspapers compared to comics seem to have similar avenues or similar revenue streams. We're talking like paid advertising on websites and all that other stuff. Has that remained consistent throughout the years you've marketed Shadowbinders, or have you seen increasing in pricing or anything like that?
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, if you're talking about, are you talking about banner ad revenue?
Banner ad revenue, yes, right.
Banner ad revenue from where I'm sitting and comparing notes with other people, it's been on the decline. I mean, I know approximately what some guys were making like 5-10 years ago, and it's not anywhere close to what they're making now. We've talked about that before, and I think that again comes back to being willing to try new things, because what's the book? Who Moved My Cheese? I know it's really cliche, but revenue streams change. And Cam and I, like I said, we're going to talk about that in more detail on our site, but revenue streams change, and you really need to kind of be willing to try new things, because it's not always going to be. There is no set business model. I think there are things that have worked for people in the past, but and crowdfunding is sort of taking off now, and you've got Patreon and Kickstarter, and varying degrees of success with that. So it's a tough one. I mean, I know there are a lot of comics really dependent on the banner ad revenue, but unless you're some mega comic pulling in 500,000 page views a day, you're probably not going to make more than a couple of dollars a day off of it. It's just there's too much space, too much real estate, so it goes cheap. And then there's been some issues with, we talked about in the one marketing podcast we did a month or so ago. We talked about click fraud, and so I know they've been cracking down on that, which has been negatively impacting banner ad revenue too, because a lot of advertisers don't want to spend money if half those clicks are illegitimate. I'm not saying that they're site owners, but there are people out there that actually cheat to try to get the ad revenue, and it's hurting everybody else. So
wait, sorry, what's click
fraud? It's if you're running.
First I've heard of it.
Yeah, if you're running, and we talked about this. We did a podcast on banner advertising about 2 months ago, I think, and we talked about how folks basically, some of the higher traffic blogs, they have a way to click those banner ads, or somebody's clicking the banner ads and they're doing it illegitimately because they get more money per click versus per display. So there are folks out there that's what they do. They go out and click your ads, whether it's a bot or a person or somebody, and then they try to rack up the money for you. I mean, we've even had that on our Google campaigns. We've seen, we've gotten refunded money before because there were certain sites that said, suspected click fraud activity, so we get the money back because, it just was an illegitimate click. But they might be getting a buck every time they click on the ad, so there's more of an incentive for them to click on the ads than there is to just let the thing run on the website. So, I think some of the, and I hate to say it, but I think some of the more dubious blogging practices that sort of crept into webcomics early on are starting to catch up with people now, at least in terms of advertising revenue. So, I don't know. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Don't cross the streams, as they say.
Right.
So, obviously, banner ads were the beginning point of marketing and webcomics and that early business model. What's been the next step besides the crowdfunding? I mean, that seems to be the more average this time, but you're really relying truly on a fan base. You're relying on something that you've already built up for years and years and years. What about the average person that's just getting into this that may take those models similar to how the old webcomics, or How to Make It in Webcomics, or that whatever that book is that they still read?
Oh, the Kurt Geiger, the How to Make Web. Well, I think there's a lot of really good information in that book that you have to. I mean, they've had an update, but that book was written, damn near 10 years ago.
The update was actually pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, were you in the update? I thought you had something in it.
If I did, I'll take a look at the I'll look at the PDF document.
Yeah, I know they got some more. I actually haven't had a chance to look through it yet myself, but I know they had some other webcomics people, different avenues, advertising people, podcasters and whatnot, chime in, on it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I just think that it's things have changed, and Cam and I were talking today, and it's like I think we're sort of running out of advice to give people, as to how to get their stuff out there, because it just, just seems like it's not. You're really going to have to try some new things. I think you're going to have to be responsible for you, and it's almost like if you wait to follow the herd's already moved on to greener pastures. By the time you catch on to what they're doing, so it's just, I mean, the internet just moves quick. It moves really quick. And I wish I had more advice. The best advice I think I can give now is just be willing to try new things, and don't get so hung up on old things. Don't get hung up on a particular idea because maybe you've got a comic out there that you've been doing it for several years. It's not really attracting the audience that you think it should. It may never do that. So don't fall in love with something so much that you're not willing to try something new, and because maybe your next idea will be better, or the idea after that will be better, And the thing about the internet, with it being as democratic and quick as it is you'll know pretty quickly whether or not your idea is catching on, or you're building an audience, or you're getting the numbers that actually make it a sustainable thing. And if you've been doing it for like 10 years and the answer is no, then maybe you just want to take a look at trying something else.
Well, I guess it's a lot of people hate to take chances. They like the safe bet and the safe thing. Maybe there's something new that's on the horizon, or maybe there's something that's coming that they may even figure out on their own to generate some more revenue or income. One thing I'm curious about is there's always the collectives that are always around the internet now. Usually it's like-minded comics. Like I know there's the superhero group of webcomics. There's a variety of others too, but there are largers out there, and we definitely won't be mentioning names in general. But I think you know who I'm referring to. That have collected a vast amount of comic creators that have generated tons of revenue, at least, well, in terms of crowdfunding, sourcing, and all that other stuff. Is that a sustainable model for those that are fairly big names in the webcomic community to rely on funding for?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. I mean, we've talked before about the pros and cons of joining a collective. I mean, we used to belong to Keenspot, and we left. Gosh, I guess it's been about 8 or 9 months now, only because we wanted to try some new things with the site, and given some of the limitations that we had there, it wouldn't have been an easy change for us to make. To just scrap the original site, which we basically did, just scrapped our original site. And we added, our own podcast. We added some more blog posts and that sort of thing to it to kind of try to, prepare for the future. Like whatever we want to do, we could plug it into that site. But as far as collectives go, I mean, I can see the benefit if you have like-minded comics, or you share a similar readership, because you're going to share readers. Presumably, you're going to share readers. Again, I don't know. I can't really speak on that because I don't know what the terms are. I mean, are you doing a revenue share with the collective, or are you locked into a contract and then you find out it's not good for you? I don't know. I think it just depends on how much sway does the collective have over your stuff. Are you free to come and go? Is it kind of a I know Keenspot, we were pretty much autonomous. I mean, they would stick us in the news box, but we pretty much did our own thing there. But then other people have been on there before, and they were actually publishing their stuff and whatnot, and we never went that route before. So I guess we kind of dipped a toe in. We didn't go all in. So I don't know. I mean, I can see the benefit. I think a lot of it, again, this is we talked about this too, is just kind of everybody's if your readership's dwindling, the best thing you can do is go out and find new readers. And if somebody else has readers that you don't have access to, it's a good thing to get with them, I guess, and share resources. Again, that's presumably because you don't know. I mean, you could become part of a group, and for whatever reason they don't like your comic, or the readers don't like them, and you don't know what's going to happen. But presumably, I guess it could be a good thing, provided there's a sound exit strategy if things start getting weird.
It's like I was gonna say the New Year's Eve party that you don't remember happened, type thing.
Yeah, read your contracts very well. That's all I can say, and that goes same with anything. I mean, I would like to see their I can see the benefit. I mean, really, you look at the webcomic scene in the past, and there were a lot more collectives, because I think people like the idea, and I think that's why things like Tumblr take off, because people are going to one place to try to find a bunch of comics. They don't want to. They're not going to track your site down specifically because they don't know it exists. But if you're one of 100 webcomics in some kind of a group, then they might just spend some time there and just start going through all the comics and find the ones that they like. It's interesting because there's the Comixology, there's these digital comic resources, stores, I guess you could call them too, that are housing a lot of graphic novels that have either been nominated by the Eisners or Schusters or whatever, and there are others that are more of the popular comics or the web comics out there that are slowly making their way towards this particular model. Do you see that as something that's a possibility for maybe extra revenue or more exposure for that matter? Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is the I think you're always better off, excuse me, when your readers will actually buy your work directly. Like I said, the ad revenue model is pretty dodgy. If you can get people to actually put down money on your work, whether it's through crowdsourcing or digital sales or something, then I think you're almost better off. And I know we were talking with Charles Dowd about this. You're almost better off having 1,000 people that will buy your work like clockwork every month than you are having 100,000 people that maybe don't buy anything. I'm not saying that they're not valuable. They are, but in terms of actually having readership that you can monetize I think people are going to be a little more invested if they're actually spending money versus, hey, that's another free webcomic I read. It's on my list of 300 comics I read, and if they don't start updating faster, I'm just going to drop them. That's not very good. It's not a very good business model. It's not a very sound strategy there. So, so yeah, do I think everything's going to go that way? I think what needs to happen, and I got in trouble a couple months ago, and I think what really needs to happen, and I think if there has been one mistake made by, I guess, the webcomics forefathers, is that everything has been given away for free for so long that people really tend to balk when you suggest that it might cost money now. And it's kind of insulting to the artists, that you can't even ask for like $1 a month, without getting some grief. And unfortunately, though, it's really hard to put the genie back in the bottle. Once you've been giving your work away for free for so long, going to people, I mean, crowdfunding does work to an extent, but you look at, like even our most recent Kickstarter, you look at the number of people that pledge versus the number of readers we know we have, it's relatively small. You look at some other Kickstarter, oh, wow, they did $50,000, $60,000, but they might have only had 1,000 people back them out of the 100,000 readers that they actually have. So that's kind of a problem, because if you were selling 100,000 copies of X-Men every month, I mean, they'd be dancing in the streets, But that's not the way that it is with comics, and I think a lot of it is just, I think on some level, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I think we've devalued our work by giving it all away for free for so long, because people come to expect it. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. But then the flip side is you find readers that you never would have found had there been that barrier to entry, had there been that, hey, you have to plunk down $15 to buy my graphic novel before you can even see whether or not you like it. So I think in the future, I think people are going to have to walk a tighter rope between, getting the exposure and building the online audience and being able to more effectively monetize their work directly versus relying on advertising or T-shirt sales or all of this other stuff, because that seems to be very fleeting. It comes and goes. So you really need to work on having dedicated readers that will actually buy your work. And then that comes back to the point of you need to actually produce work that attracts readers that will buy it, and so it becomes a chicken or egg type thing. But I do think that digital downloads will play a bigger part, because if you're reading webcomics, obviously you're online, and it might be hard for you to get to a comic book shop, but it's very easy for you to push a download button on Comixology for 99 cents and buy something. And that's not a ridiculous price point either.
No. I mean, it beats the micropay that you get from some of those games through your mobile phone too. So.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, you get the game for free, but if you want to actually play the game, it's going to cost you $10. Oh, you died. Another $10 for another round of coins. Yeah. But yeah, and I think that really is fundamentally what's going to have to change. I think I think webcomicers are going to have to, I guess, start valuing your work more. And yeah, it's a tough thing to do, because you're going to have people tell you, hey, this is a free comic. And we've had that too. We've had people in comments before, even like when we were doing the Kickstarter, like, hey, we're tired of you asking for money. And I'm like, what money do you think we're making off of this site? It's not exactly like we're making, a lot of money off of this. You've been getting the comic for free for 4 years, and all we're doing is putting a banner up asking you to buy a book. I mean, that's not, asking for too much for the free comic. We've had people complain about the advertising on the site, that they didn't like that we had ads, and I'm like, well, if you like the comic for free, I got to pay for the hosting. So, sorry, yeah. And frankly, they're not the readers that you want. I mean, and that's not I'm not trying to belittle anyone, but I mean, if they can't understand that there's value in the time that you spend on your work, then and they think everything's for free, then just move on. Find some other readers that understand that, hey, this is costing me time. It's costing us time. I mean, we take time away from the kids or other paying work to give you free comics. So I don't know what to tell you.
There's some things that I've seen. It's been very rarely used, and I think it's probably the way things are going to go with comics in general. And heck, I'm almost thinking of doing that with TGT here as well. But um, some comics have released, say, the first chapter, first
Mhm.
24 pages. I've seen this done in video games too, Walking Dead specifically, and they release the first chapter. If you like it, you can either go into a subscription model,
Mhm.
or you can purchase or pre-order the book of sorts.
Yeah, I think that's a good balance between free and paid content. I know some of the some publishers have done that. They put the content out there for free. I know Doug TenNapel had Brat Fist out there for a while, and I think now they have like the first 30 pages. If you like it, then you can go buy the book from Dark Horse, which is cool because people get a taste for what the comics like. But then the downside of that is a lot of people still are going to feel ripped off. Like, you know, they're reading this free sample and it's not enough, and they're not getting the whole thing for free, so they're not going to bother reading any of it. And again, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, I'm sorry. Sorry we couldn't make you happy. I'm sorry we couldn't give you everything for free. Sorry we want to eat. The kids want to eat. But,
You should just
like,
put a kid, please, I need food. Have like the that type of thing.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's getting hard. And I mean, our readers are, I mean, for the most part, and I'm certainly not trying to disparage anyone. They're very supportive. It's just that you do get the transient types that come through, and they just, and I think we've kind of done it to ourselves. And I think maybe the expectation needs to change that, digital comics, they're not printed on paper, they're worth something. The time is worth something. The creator should get something for that. Even podcasting. I mean, yourself, I think I mentioned to you before, there's a paranormal podcast I listen to, and he does something like that where he gives you his weekly podcast for free. I think it's like 20 minutes or so. And if you want more detailed interviews, then you have to subscribe to his, he calls it like his Plus Club, and it's like $6 or $7 a month. And then you get like all the archives, and you get a bunch of like exclusive interviews and stuff like that. So, there's enough there to get you to bite, to find out whether or not you like his style or whatever. But he's not going to give you the store for free either, So I don't know. And again, it's going to come down to the individual artists. I mean, you're going to have to decide, what's your time worth, and that's it.
I just don't want to feel like I'm going to shoot myself in the foot.
That's everybody. I think everybody's kind of afraid to. It's kind of the big issue everybody's kind of danced around. It's like, how do we make money off of this thing? And it worked well when the advertising rates were good and people were buying T-shirts. But now it's like, okay, we want to do this. We want to do this professionally, or at least make a part-time income. Money has to come from someplace, And I don't know. It's a tough one, and I don't think anybody has the answers. I mean, people are still trying to find the balance, I think, between paid and free content. And even the big, you've got like Mark Waid's Thrillbent, same kind of thing, where they give you a bunch of comics and they're still charging, for the downloads or whatever. So the site kind of acts as an advertisement for, the Comixology downloads. And I don't think anybody's got figured out yet. And by all means, if somebody else can figure it out better, do it. And then realize everybody's probably going to copy you. But if you can get in and do it, and you're first, then you're in a pretty good place, I think.
We're just we're closing in on the end here, unfortunately, because it's always a fun time chatting with you here, Thom. Is there anything you want to bring up that those that are listening or watching to this to know about?
I don't think so. I think check out our comic at shadowbinders.com. And like I said, Cam and I talked about a little bit more in depth about some marketing stuff on our podcast there. One of them is like 2 hours, so.
I listened to that one. That was good.
Oh, thanks. We've got some time to kill, and we've got another one coming up sometime this week. We're going to get that posted. And we're trying to look into the crystal ball a little bit and try to figure out where things are going. So.
Good stuff. Well, Thom, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure as always, and bring Cam on next time. That'd be a blast too.
Oh, absolutely.
She's always fun. So, and that ends this episode of TGT. God, slipping into old habits there. that ends this episode of Two Geeks Talking. Of course, you can find this on our website, tgtmedia.com. Find this on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/tgtmedia. Facebook page is Facebook/Two Geeks Talking, the word two. It's also the same for our Patreon account, which is patreon.com/Two Geeks Talking. $1 a month helps support us. That we've been doing the show for 6 years, since 2008, and over 600 free interviews. Help us out.
Please do.
Tune in to another great episode next with another amazing and talented creative person. I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. Thanks everyone for watching.